Welcome back to Third Win Thursdays. I'm joined by John and Eric, partners at TWG. It's Thursday, June 29th, 2023, and this is Third Win Thursdays number 15. How are you going?
Feeling great, Scott. We got end of the second quarter. We got July 4th. We got NBA free agency, NBA offseason in general. NHL draft just happened. But we're about to hit that lull in the sports season where it's like just baseball for a while. So we'll see how we adjust. I don't know how many stories we're gonna have, but hey, it's gonna be a good summer.
We can just talk about Adley Rutschman on repeat. That's fine with me.
That works. That works.
Yes,
I was looking at some interesting stats from the baseball, I guess, history. And in 2022, 60% of the games were 3 hours or longer. And since they added the pitch clock, only 13% have lasted longer than 3 hours. So it's a 50% reduction. The fans are listening, they're watching, and I think the MLB just might be getting back to this day and age.
Look, it's key. And as this is my first MLB season as a dad, and when I tell you that time is very valuable, it is nice knowing that I can now go to an Orioles game and that extra 30 minutes, 45 minutes that would have been playing, it's crucial. So I'm a huge fan.
There you go. And how are we feeling about the NBA and NHL drafts?
Woo. Well, look, I think the coolest thing that happened in the NBA draft was the Thompson twins going back to back, right? Identical twins, neither of whom went to college, going fourth and fifth overall in the NBA draft. That is just such an anomaly. I'm like, that's kind of insane. Also excited about, I'm just going to tell you right now, Houston Rockets are going to be absolutely insane with Amen Thompson on board, and they got Cam Whitmore at number 20, who's a DMV guy from Maryland. And Villanova, okay, whatever. We'll give him a pass on that. But the Rockets are going to be nasty. I don't know if it's going to be this year, but in a year or two. The amount of athleticism, the amount of young talent in that franchise, crazy good.
I used to be a Spurs fan because of Manu Ginobili being Argentine. I got endless jerseys. I should be rocking it right now. But I saw the day after the draft a picture of Wemby with Tim Duncan, Robinson, and Ginobili, and I got chills. I was like, this guy's going to be a legend. And they're going to look back at this picture, be like, you got Tim Duncan out of the woods to mentor you. You know you're good.
So basketball in Texas is going to be electric for the next decade. Is basically what we're trying to say. I guess everything is coming up Texas these days. Scott's in Austin for God's sake.
Yep. But hey, let's not rule out Las Vegas right now. You know LeBron's gonna get his team, and he's gonna attract those big players. So
sounds like next week's LinkedIn poll.
Hey,
come check out the TWG page for that one.
Here's my crystal ball for Las Vegas, guys. LeBron's gonna buy into the expansion franchise in Las Vegas, and then Bronny is gonna go and play for Las Vegas. I feel that one is feeling real strong in my crystal ball. It's like that just is such a LeBron move, and I feel like it's going to happen within the next 5 years.
Yep. And another big thing was OT Elite and the G League showing up in those first few picks. So I think NCAA's gotta watch its back. Not necessarily in the near future, but you never know.
I mean, look, and we're going to talk NIL today, but that is a nice counter attack, if you will. NCAA kind of didn't want to do it for a while there, but now they're kind of like, hey, here's the reason why the top players will come and stay in college basketball, because we have all of these big contracts with ESPN and with CBS, et cetera. And that's, if you want to make more money as a young basketball player, hey, in some cases, maybe it is overtime elite or G League, but in some cases, maybe it's you go to school and you get paid over $1 million in NIL.
Yep. And I mean, let's be honest, the biggest fan base and probably the most electric fan base is in college basketball. So they still got that going for them.
Yeah, how many lifelong overtime elite fans do we have? Like literally, if you were born yesterday, you're an overtime elite fan. But how many generations, passed down? Like in my family, it's Georgetown basketball, right?
Mm-hmm.
That my family's been fans, since before I was born, right? And so there is that emotional connection, right? That attachment to the university you went to. So anyway, I digress. But
Yes.
Basketball is booming in general. That's the top. That's the headline, if you will.
Exactly. So without further ado, let's get into the headlines.
Look at that segue.
All right. Here you go.
All right. So this one really hit close to home. From Sportico, the Qatari Wealth Fund buying into the Wizards' parent in a $4.05 billion deal. You know what? Eric? I think we're gonna have to chalk this up as the first of many, all right? And it just so happened that Monumental Sports Entertainment, our friends right down the street here in DC, pulled the trigger on this. But we've talked on the show before. The intention of Ted Leonsis and Monumental Sports is to become the most valuable regional sports company in the world, right? How do you get there? Well, you have to have a bunch of properties under your umbrella, and you need a bunch of cash to invest deeper into all of these properties, right? So we know where these bottomless pits of cash are coming from these days, the Middle East, as we've seen with the PGA Tour. The NBA literally just changed their bylaws and enabling, again, minority stake. So this is not a full takeover like the PGA Tour, but hey, this is something that we're gonna be dealing with in sports for the foreseeable future, which is international funds, sovereign wealth funds being stakeholders in our favorite teams. I mean, look, I don't know how I should feel about it as a fan because we don't really know how things are going to change, right? Are things going to change at all, or is it simply just a pure? We feel like this is the best return on investment from the sovereign wealth funds side, and from the team side, it's hey, where else are we going to get this kind of cash, right?
Yep. And I know this might be a hot topic for you, John, but do you think this investment has anything to do with the rumors that Monumental and the DC brand are essentially going a little bit down south, so the Northern Virginia area? Do you think that has anything to do with, investment in land, buying more property, infrastructure developments? Like, personally, I hope they stay in DC. I do not like driving to Northern Virginia. Personal choice, but it'll be interesting to see, there's a market down there that they've talked about for a while. And, I want to, as the DC expert, I wanted your take on if you think there's any correlation between this investment and any DC, Northern Virginia movement.
Well, look, the Capitals headquarters is already in Ballston, Virginia, which is in Arlington County. All right. But here's the thing. I think all Monumental and the Leonsis family is trying to do is generate leverage. They were trying to negotiate with everybody, so they're trying to negotiate from a position of strength, right? In other words, they're starting to float these rumors that we might move to Northern Virginia, so that they get the DC government to give them a sweet deal to be able to get the funding to renovate Capital One. Because I mean, look, that is one of the easiest venues to get to in the city, right? And I just don't see the benefit of going and building a brand new stadium in Northern Virginia. It's like they're just trying to get a better deal in DC. That's how I'm reading it.
I feel you. All right. I hope it's true. I hope you're right.
All right. So we've talked a lot about the beautiful game coming to the US, and a lot of different adoption of new sports here, but now we go with a US sport going international. And I think we've seen that with the WNBA in Canada, with the NBA. I think they're going to Paris next year, which is like a massive win for them. And especially since Jordan walked those streets back in the Olympics. So yeah, you see it come full circle, and here's a headline.
From our friends at Front Office Sports, the NFL fever ramping up in Germany with sellout ticket site traffic spikes. Tickets for this fall's NFL games in Frankfurt are already in high demand. The Chiefs will play the Dolphins and the Patriots will face the Colts. So basically, everything is coming up football, whether it be American football or actual football. If for those of you who think of it that way, this is kind of insane to me that they literally sold out all of these tickets in like 15 minutes in Germany. Look, the mandate of all of these companies is to continue to grow their bottom line, right, and to continue to grow revenue. Their only real option, I guess, is if you feel like you've hit kind of a peak in the U.S., you have to go overseas, right? And the NFL has been playing at least one game overseas for a long, long time now, so this isn't unusual. But to see this amount of success, I guess you could say, and then being able to penetrate these markets overseas is kind of stunning, and also just goes to show what a dominant media property and sports property the NFL is.
Yeah, and you're seeing it from all types of sports kind of crossing the pond. Like the NFL, I know the Ravens are going back to London this year, and they've really – those fans get so excited. They've got Ravens bar just ready for the game. Like it's pretty cool to see that energy and that level. But you're also seeing, in soccer and football, those teams are coming over and playing exhibitions, yes, in the summer, but they know there's a market over here. You're even starting to see, some actual competitions. There's been talks about, in a year or two, do they bring the Champions League final to Los Angeles, which makes no sense when you think about it, the European Champions League happening in the U.S., but they want to go attack that market. So it's almost like it's a question of, this might sound like the hottest take ever, but at what point, how many years down the line are the NFL hosting Wild Card Weekend at Wembley Stadium in London? Like, when does it go from regular season to playoffs? When do they really start to go?
Better yet, Eric, at what point does the NFL have an entire division in Europe?
Ooh.
Right?
Well,
they could have a division like in Mexico or all the way down South America. They have a division in Europe. I mean, look.
Yeah.
If they truly think that only Americans can play American football, then that would be one thing. But if the goal is to just continued expansion to infinity, right? Why don't you set up 4 teams one in London, one in Paris, one in Germany, and one in France, Spain, whatever.
And it'll be such a slow growth, but we'll see that the end goal in mind, right? There will be one year where the Chiefs will have their whole training camp in Europe or something like that, and then slowly but surely you'll just see the NFL just reaching around globally and getting as much of the pie as they can. I wouldn't be surprised.
One thing I guarantee you is the players are going to hate this. The players are going to absolutely hate this.
100%.
Adding all the more stress in terms of travel and adding way too much on their plates. But whatever, they all say it themselves. All the athletes say it themselves. It's a business.
And it gives expansion opportunities for sponsorship in Europe and access to those brands. So I'm sure some of them will be fond of the initiative. And just a quick fun fact, in 2 minutes, the queue had 1.4 million people. So there's definitely a craze for the NFL over there.
There's far more demand for tickets in Germany than there is for Washington Commanders tickets here in DC, Maryland, Virginia. Crazy.
Well,
maybe that will change the new
playing up there. It would be different. But
all right, what do we got next, Scott?
You've also got the marketing side of exclusivity. So they know they only get one game a year. So Everyone wants it. All right, so the next one's a 2-1, so I'm going to stay on. So this is from Front Office Sports, led by collectives, year 3 of NIL to reach $1.17 billion in market. In year 2, 3/4 of the NIL market revenue derived from collective dollars per open doors. And in order to stay competitive, Power 5 programs will need to offer more than $1 million annually. And this comes alongside the announcement, this is from Sports Illustrated, that the NCAA released an NIL memo that warned schools that their rules supersede state laws, which I'm not sure how legal that is, but we have this kind of conflict now between the lawmakers and the governing body. So there you go.
I mean, look, guys, it's early still in the whole NIL era. It is going to be a shift. The rest of this decade is going to be a massive shift in college sports. You know, I just think this whole NIL thing opened up Pandora's box, and it just doesn't make sense for student athletes, particularly they're playing these big profit-making sports, to not be properly compensated. All right. The NCAA is grasping at straws, right? They are clinging onto their power and their authority however possible. And I just don't see this institution surviving or at least in its current form as like the rule maker for all college sports. It just doesn't make sense anymore. The way that it is set up now, though, it's like, imagine if there was NFL teams who could just blow past the salary cap, right? And it was allowed, right? And in other words, like, of course, these big football schools and really, really big Power 5 basketball schools are just going to do whatever they want, right? In terms of NIL and paying players, et cetera, right? Because the NCAA is, they're saying, oh, you have to follow our rules, but the states are basically saying we're going to change our laws so that our football teams can have a competitive advantage. That's what I read from this. It's like Louisiana, Texas, Alabama, Oklahoma, maybe. Like we are going to pay our players because they're worth that much to our state.
Who's the highest paid state employee in all of those states? It's the head football coach.
I mean, it is like religion in some of these states, right? Particularly these SEC states, and with so much money, right, and so much media exposure, and I mean, this is going to be a wild ride to kind of see how it all plays out. I guarantee the NCAA is going to try and get some law passed at the federal level. That's why they hired Charlie Baker as the NCAA president, because he's a former governor of Massachusetts and knows how to work. He knows how to lobby. He knows how to work with legislators, right? However, I just think eventually college football, the Power 5, and particularly the SEC and the Big Ten, they're just eventually going to say, screw it, we're out. We're out of the NCAA. We're just going to do the CFP, right, the College Football Playoff, and we're going to organize ourselves and legislate ourselves. It's going to be messy. There will be lawyers. There will be lawsuits and a whole bunch of nastiness that I think when the dust settles, NCAA is going to be a very different thing if it still exists at all. And ultimately, college sports are going to be essentially an extension of pro sports, right? That's what NIL kind of unlocked this opportunity to really see it for what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I agree with you, and I see your vision. I just think that the NCAA is not going to go down quietly, and if they go down, they will try to bring everyone down with them. They won't say, "Oh no, the SEC is now with Overtime Elite, and you guys are your own profitable entity." They will try their damnedest to bring everyone down with them, and they will not go down lightly. So I completely agree that it's a Wild West. NIL in these last 3 years has opened up so many doors. It's made people realize a lot of things. It's like shined lights on either issues or opportunities in a positive way for young athletes. But at the end of the day, the same way we just talked about how the NFL is a business, and it's very clear sometimes that they don't care about the players. In a way, the NCAA that says they're there for the student athletes, at times it seems like they're there for the power over the student athletes rather than the benefit of them. So I agree with you. It'll be a dirty, nasty fight the whole way through.
You better believe it. And the NCAA is a nonprofit too, though, right? Like, I thought it was all about, the health, safety, and well-being of the student athletes that they serve. But when you really look at it, you're like, not quite exactly what the mission is.
And it's funny because, obviously there's a lot of nonprofits that do good, but they also have to be run by like a business. So I think the NCAA took that a little too seriously. But yeah, it's going to be an interesting time in the next couple of years. And I think we'll see a lot more of the justice system involved as well, just like with EA and their college game day video game. And yeah, it's going to be a very interesting time in the next couple of years. All right, so now we go into celebrity investment, and there's something cool about this, and that is that both Ryan Reynolds and then Rob McElhenney are joining Michael Jordan with their $220 million investment into Alpine, the F1 team. And this is alongside Redbird Capital Partners and Otro Partners, which is going to make the total investment make the team worth up to $900 million. So it's a very interesting kind of purchase because F1 is significantly known not to kind of allow outside investment, and they've got 10 teams. So it's very much a commodity. And now you see this become like the first time that an F1 team allows it, and they're just looking for massive improvement. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, and for sure, when you think about, I kind of laughed when I read this first and was thinking somewhere in the contract, there's a promise that Ryan Reynolds gets his own episode of Drive to Survive in the next season. 100%. That has to be included. But yeah, to me, it's, Ryan Reynolds has made a pretty clear business model. He wants to keep investing in sports and be able to tell stories around valuable properties. And, F1 is a valuable property over these last couple of years. And we've seen what he's been able to do with Wrexham. We've seen what he's been able to do just, as an actor and throughout his career, and making sure he stays in the picture, making sure, whether it's him, his family, whatever it may be, they want to be involved in things, and they want to, not just kind of sit idly by. So, I'm excited to see what can come from this because, like Scott said, F1 can sometimes be a very closed off community. And, they've talked about motor racing names like the Andretti's trying to buy into teams and them even being blocked out, and kind of like the American push away from Formula One. So this is another interesting take, not to insult the people at Formula One, but maybe they got confused and saw Ryan was working with an English team and they didn't realize that he's American. So who knows? Hope they don't find that out, but it's an interesting investment. And I wish I had $220 million to invest into Mercedes.
Oh man. Well, my take here is that I feel like after losing out on the Senators bid, Ryan Reynolds is probably like, all right, well, I got all this money, burning a hole in my account. Like, I got to put it into something, right? Like, let's go invest in a Formula One team. The other thing is, I'm literally like the last person on earth to watch Drive to Survive, but I've been catching up in the last couple of weeks. And one thing I can tell you is Alpine needs the investment because they've been struggling. All right. And I'm like, I just learned how they used to be Renault, and like they're also owned it. So like now I'm hip, but they got a long way to go. They're just a midfield team at this point, right? More or less.
Look at you.
I got the lingo, Eric. I'm learning.
Yeah.
But again, here's what the big takeaway though is Ryan Reynolds is a media mogul. All right, he's a media savant. All right. he recognizes what it's all about is what is it that is going to capture people's attention, all right, and then how can I layer my celebrity and my acting and comedic talent in there to elevate the value of the property, right? So it makes a lot of sense that these celebrities and these athletes and these actors are investing in these sports entertainment properties because they know the entertainment business. They know how to add value to entertainment businesses. So it makes more sense in many ways. It makes more sense than like a sovereign wealth fund investing into a sports property because these folks know the media business. They know the entertainment business. They know what drives engagement, attention. They know how to drive value. And so when I'm looking at investments, it's like who can actually add a ton of value, right, to the enterprise and not just the dollars, right?
Yep.
Like if you're going to invest in something, make sure that you can also be a value add to help the growth of the business. And that's why I think this makes a lot of sense. Also, MJ is going quickly out of the NBA business, but quickly into a new business here in sports. He'll probably be pretty hands off. He'll probably just be, chilling at the Grand Prix and smoking cigars. I would venture.
I would guess so. Yeah, love it.
The what's interesting is that you have MJ who went from $275 million purchase in 2010 to $2 billion sale of the Hornets. And then you have Ryan Reynolds who bought Mint Mobile for probably pennies at that point and then sold it for $1.3 billion to T-Mobile, I think it was. And then he just sold Aviation Gin to Diageo. And he's made Wrexham a much more valuable club than it probably should be. So clearly people are catching on to the successes of these celebrities in the space. And like you said, John, they know media, they know entertainment, and now they will carry it forward in sports. So that wraps up the headline segment, and we're going to jump into our third win. We've got two. One is very much so our typical deal partnership, and the other is a much more interesting but still equally impressive, I would say, deal. So let's jump right in. All right, so this is from Boardroom, and that's Christian Pulisic and Puma team up to support U.S. youth soccer players. And essentially what they're doing is it's a long-term partnership to increase access to soccer across the U.S. Through what they're calling stomping grounds, which are the fields that both Pulisic and Puma are going to be creating, and then also alongside other types of programs and investments in a variety of different communities. So yeah, there you go.
No, I love this. I saw one of the quotes from Pulisic was, it's all about inspiring the next generation for me, which when you really think about it, like that's one of the primary things that athletes can do to make an impact, right? Is both through their performance and their character and on the field. That's one way that they can inspire the next generation, but then also what they do off the pitch, off the field, outside of the training facility, right? So this, I feel like, again, this gives even more evidence of like the win-win-win mindset is starting to be, the standard, right? The standard for deals when it comes to these big partnerships, big brand, big athlete brand in Pulisic. And like legitimately, there will be benefit for the next generation of players. They literally have resources that they wouldn't have had otherwise if this deal hadn't come together. So I think it's a clear win for everybody, right? And excited to see how this impacts U.S. soccer players, for a long time to come.
That's it. Only thing I have to add is, again, I'm just excited to see the growth of soccer in this country. We talked about Messi before and the influence that he's going to have. Obviously building off of Americans like Christian or Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie, all the guys who they get the hype around the World Cup, but what happens in the 4 years in between, and how can we continue to build excitement around the game?
Here's what the MLS really needs to do. They need to sign one of their own U.S. stars while they're in their prime to play in the MLS.
Well,
because if all of our best players are playing in Europe, how are U.S. fans going to stay connected with our best players?
Yep. That's
the next step for MLS. You can't let Pulisic go overseas. You have to. I mean, I guess the business has to grow enough to where they can afford him, for one thing. But the funny thing about all of this is that Pulisic is not going to be playing on U.S. soil until the next World Cup, basically.
Yep. And they call it the legacy program. So there's a lot involved. And yeah, I think, John, just to comment on that, I think maybe with Messi showing up, there might be one or two players that say, I'll play a year with one of the greatest of all time. So just throwing it out there for Inter Miami. Now for our second one. So it might be a little bit hard to read, but essentially during the Men's College World Series in Omaha, a local pizza shop called Rocco's has this Jello shot competition. And they essentially square up all of the different teams and their fans buy Jello shots, and whoever buys the most wins, essentially. But the best part is that the proceeds for every $5 shot go to each team's local food banks. So in total, they raised $450,000, with LSU very clearly leading the charge with 64,800 of them. I don't know if it's a healthy habit to promote in this way, but it's definitely creating an impact. And I mean, the Tigers won, so
good karma
anyway, but there you go.
This is one of my favorite ones of all time. This is just insanity. My question though is, did they also drink 64,000 Jello shots, or did they just buy them? Like, because I'm trying to figure out how the LSU fans actually made it to the game after that many Jello shots were purchased. But look, maybe I'm discounting the alcohol tolerance of the Tigers fans.
I was going to say the Tigers have a lot of championships recently to celebrate, and NIL kings. So hey, they might just be drinking it all in.
That's cool though. I mean, and this is probably like ultimately too a big benefit for that little pizza shop there in Omaha. But shout out to the LSU fans. I mean, y'all got it going on for sure. I can't believe that they made that many Jello shots and that many were consumed. But look, that's peak performance from a fan base right there.
Yep. It's like the Bills fans, but this time a competition was involved. So, all right. With that, we wrap up the third win segment, and just a quick community update. Cheyenne Sellers is representing the USA in China on the Under 21 Nations League 3x3. So a big shout out to her and to the team competing there. Last time I saw, they were 10-1 in play, so they're killing it. And
update, they won their 2 games this morning, only lost once to the host China, then came back and beat them again, looking like they're going to qualify through to the Nations League finals. So shout out Cheyenne, like we say, our TWG Terp overseas, and we're proud of her.
Yeah, we love to see our clients take big wins.
Hey, this fall and winter season is going to be pretty wild, guys. We're going to have lots of games. We're all going to be Louisville Cardinals fans. We're all going to be Maryland women's basketball fans. We're all going to be following Northeastern basketball. But hey,
Georgetown soccer,
Georgetown basketball, obviously.
Yeah, everything Georgetown.
Yeah. No, it's going to be a great summer, great fall. Looking forward to it. Scott, great work this week. Love those headlines. Love that Jello. Way to end it with some Jello shots as we go into a holiday weekend. I love it.
There you go. Yeah, everyone enjoy their Jello shots responsibly. And I don't know why you would choose to have that drink. I really
Oh,
do
well.
not enjoy them, but hey, it's it's a personal choice. And
This is
if it's
America,
doing
Scott.
good,
This is
Yeah,
America.
yeah,
if it's doing good, take those Jello shots. You know.
there it is. There it is.
All right. Well, that's all we have for the week. Thanks as always for joining, gentlemen. And yeah, we'll catch everyone off the holiday next week.
Happy 4th, everybody.
Peace.
Take care.